Okay, welcome to the live stream. Thanks for joining me. I actually don't have that much of an agenda for this live stream. There's just been so much craziness in the last 24 hours after these videos of cultural critic and internet sensation Dave Rubin went viral of him being asked by people at one university in California, at the University of Delaware, will he interview or debate me or Sam Cedar or whoever else? And all sorts of stuff has exploded. There's an interesting post on the I believe is it on the Rubin or the Sam Harris subreddit, which I'll pull up on the Dave Rubin subreddit, which we'll take a look at. I'll kind of update you on what's been going on, but it has gotten very, very crazy. And I don't really know what the end game is with any of this stuff. Last night, I was sort of texting with a bunch of the usual suspects in the progressive YouTube sphere. I don't know what to call it. And everybody just kind of wondering, what is the goal of all of this stuff? Are we trying to actually sit down and have a conversation with Dave Rubin, or are we what are we trying to do? And my priority has always been, I have ideas that are mostly progressive, um, but are informed by the facts over my feelings. To cite an often an overused um, uh, catchphrase or talking point at this point in time. And I'm not paying particularly close attention to the specifics of what my audience wants me to say. In other words, I was just talking actually with a prominent public intellectual who many of you I'm sure know, and we were talking about this idea of becoming beholden to your audience in a way that you start to put out content that is primarily informed by what your audience wants rather than primarily informed by what it is that you believe to be true, and presenting sort of like your genuine self. And over the years, I've had, call them battles, I've had disagreements with what I guess I would call like my core audience, which would be leftists, but not socialists and communists, etc. Right? I mean, I think like the core of my audience is certainly to the left of Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, but they are to the right of where communism and Stalinism would typically be placed on the political spectrum. Although I think there's a very good case to be made, as I've made, that Stalinism in practice is extraordinarily authoritarian. That doesn't mean it's right wing, but it is authoritarian, which is a characteristic of sort of reactionary politics. And I do the show that is my genuine views. And that's really all that I promise to do. And usually there's kind of like a good match between me and my audience on that basis. And sometimes there's a disconnect. Sometimes I will say something about, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or Venezuela, or Russia, or Syria, or whatever, and there will notably be a bigger piece of my core audience, or what I perceive to be my core audience, that disagrees with me. And when I think about what is it that's going on with Dave Rubin, like what we used to be in regular contact and we aren't anymore. What explains this? And some say, well, he's just paid now. He's paid, and so he'll say whatever the people who pay him want him to say. And I think that that's a overly simplistic point of view. If I had to sort of give my best assessment of what's going on with Dave Rubin, I think he was always a center left guy. And at a certain point in time, there came this sort of opportunity to do something that is more initially center right libertarian. And it always felt sort of genuine, right? It maybe wasn't 100% genuine, but it was like 90% genuine. And then over time, opportunities came together and money came together and all of this stuff, where at no point did it become Rubin is straight up saying things that he doesn't believe at all. I think it's a sort of, there's a degree of audience capture, and there's a degree of notoriety that is available to Dave Rubin. And it has led to taking some positions that are now a departure from the positions he would consider the most important ones in terms of defining his political identity 8 years ago. And it's sort of a combination of things. It's a combination of all of these things that have led to this persona. And it has put him in direct conflict with some of the people that I think he formerly was very much on board with politically, me being one example. Um, am I being overly careful with what I say? No, I'm not. I just want to be, I think there's a possibility that Dave Rubin and I could come together in some format. It could be in an in-person, live event. It could be on his show or my show. I don't know if he's interested in that, but I'd be glad to host something like that. And we could actually sort out a lot of this stuff in a civil way. And if there's one thing I'm able to do, and it's not necessarily an accomplishment, it's just sort of my disposition, personality wise, I'm able to have civil conversations with people who disagree with me politically. I'm able to have civil conversations with people who hold disgusting views. And I think that I would be able to actually break down a lot of this stuff with Dave Rubin if we were to sit down and say, let's talk about your political awakening in detail. Let's talk about, the lies you claim I told about you. Let's hash all of this stuff out and sort of see where we end. I don't know, I can't speak for anybody else. Sam Cedar has a very different on-air persona than I do. Kyle Kalinske has a very different on-air persona than I do. Natalie Wynn, another person who's been brought up as, would you talk to Natalie Wynn? Every one of these folks is different, and it's not for me to say whether they would all be civil discussions or not, or whether they would all be productive. What I can say is I would have no problem putting aside sort of the sniping and the partisan stuff that has happened with Rubin over the last 6 to 12 months, and just having a conversation about, as he likes to do, ideas, and the ideas that he has and the ideas that I have, and we could sort of go from there. Now, as far as the reaction to yesterday's segment, so let me put this up on the screen here. So yesterday I did a segment called Dave Rubin Calls Me a Liar When Confronted About Dodging Me. And in this segment, there was one point at which one individual asked Dave Rubin a question about, would he debate me or have me on? And Dave Rubin, during this, sort of responded. We can even get to his response, actually. Let's just listen to exactly what he had to say, so we're all working with the same information.
People that attack me personally. I think it's pretty obvious if you watch what I did up here. Like, I don't
Let me go back, actually.
Or David Packman or Kyle Kalinske. All of these are progressives who have...
I'm not, in principle, I'm not against having any of them, but I'm not going to have people that attack me personally. I think it's pretty obvious if you watch what I did up here. Like, I don't attack people personally. I'm happy to talk about ideas. You're going to go after me personally, you're going to lie about me and slander me and things like that. Like, it's just not the game I'm playing. There's no win in it for me. I have a
So at this point in time, I wasn't sure if he was referring to me when he was talking about, lying about me personally and all of this different stuff. But then there was another clip from an appearance at the University of Delaware where he actually does say Pac-Man has lied about me multiple times. And this is where it starts to get a little bit, problematic, because I don't know what he's talking about. Let's take a listen to that. At the University of Delaware, again, he's asked about me and claims Pac-Man has lied about me multiple times. Take a listen to this. The audio's not great, but you can hear it.
Yeah. All right, let's the last one, because I am a leftist.
Yeah,
all right, it's easy question.
Yes.
Is there anyone, I know you won't debate Sam Cedar, the majority report, is there anyone on the progressives, David Packman, or from Counterpoints that you would be willing to have a discussion with?
Anyone that won't go after me, Pac-Man's lied about me a bunch of times.
I know you had him on the show once.
Oh yeah, and I did have him on the show. I mean, again, this is
Yeah, okay, Pac-Man's lied about me a bunch of times. I want to hash out what those lies were. I just want to know what the lies were, and the reaction from people has been, on Twitter, it has been crazy. And by the way, I have no problem with people politely saying to him, hey, Dave, you claim David Packman lied. He's expressed interest in hashing out what those lies are. Let's do it. And I've been retweeting those because I think it would be an interesting conversation. And quite frankly, let's not lie. If Dave Rubin and I actually had a conversation about what have I said, what haven't I said, what lies have I told as far as he's concerned, that would do well for him and it would do well for me. I think that he has the idea that it's either beneath him or that maybe it wouldn't be a productive conversation, and I just completely disagree. If you want to tweet to him and say, hey, let's have this conversation with David Packman. David's going to be in Los Angeles soon, which hopefully I'll be able to tell you about in the next week or two. Some very exciting stuff going on in Los Angeles, California that I will be participating in hopefully in the next month or two. Let's set it up. I think that would be a great thing to do. And the reaction has been all over the map. I want to show you one thread from this is the Dave Rubin subreddit, which has actually become very anti-Dave Rubin. And this is just a post from that video I told you. And the interview that I referenced at the end of yesterday's clip is a subject of much discussion. So, for example, this first user said, I believe that at the end of this video, Packman hinted at the real reason he suspects Rubin won't have him on his show it was so embarrassing when Pacman interviewed him that he would never subject himself to that again. Rubin obviously resents Pacman for that interview, which wasn't even that tough. Rubin's just such flimsy pundit that the slightest pushback or follow-up causes him to implode. I know the Pacman interview bothers Rubin because he blocked me when I brought it up on Twitter. We're going to republish that next week. Next week, I'm actually going to be away. And we're putting together a bunch of different content in addition to our guest hosts. And one of the things we're going to do is republish that Rubin interview so that everybody can take a look at it and sort of judge it for themselves. I think it was it was an extraordinarily fair interview. The interview was too fair. If anything, I handled Dave with not kid gloves, but with a light touch, sort of out of respect for what at the time was our personal relationship. And I think you will find that it was exceedingly fair and maybe too much. And as you read through this discussion, and I know people are saying this has become an anti-Rubin subreddit, it seems that a lot of the issue here is the double standard of claiming to be about civil discussion where divergent ideas are discussed, and yet there's a lot of people who are actually advocating for progressive policy. I mean, I don't have a problem with the left-wing guests that Dave has on, who are overwhelmingly talking about the problems of the left. Like, that's fine. I talk about the problems of the left as well. But when you don't just bring people on, not because they're, celebrity leftists that you think are going to get you clicks and likes, but because they're actually coherently and intelligently advocating opposition to right-wing policy, left-wing policy ideas, I think that that's where it sort of becomes problematic. And the biggest thing I'm seeing in this thread is just have the battle of ideas. If you're really going to have it, it has to be a diverse battle of ideas where we actually give a proper audience to the true diversity of ideas that's out there. So that's my general view now, and I'm willing to appear, any place with Dave and hash this out, or with whoever else. I mean, people have said, David, what about Ben Shapiro? You interviewed Ben Shapiro in the past. Again, I think it's possible Ben Shapiro has become too big for the David Pacman show, but I would appear with him. I'd be glad to have him appear with me. And let's actually have some of these, it doesn't have to be this gotcha stuff. I get everybody now is claiming at least to go against the gotcha stuff. That's fine. Let's have these conversations. So let me welcome people once again. If this is your first David Pacman Show live stream, I will remind you, these are live. These are actually live unless it's a replay. You can use Super Chat to ask questions and to send comments. They will pop up on the screen, and I will read those, and I will respond to them. If there are questions, I will answer the questions. If there are comments, I will read and react to them. Also, the number one funding source for the David Pacman Show is individual memberships, and you can sign up for membership at davidpacman.com/membership. The normal rates are really cheap, and I think an incredibly good deal. I understand not everybody can afford $6 a month or $60 for the year. So if you want to take a discount, take a discount. We're not checking taxes. Fortunately for people like Trump and others, we are not looking at tax returns. If you want to save 40%, use the coupon code This Is 2020. That'll save you 40%. If you want to get like an extra special deal, use the coupon code SAVE35 on the $60 a year membership, and you'll get a year membership for $25. We do a daily extra show just for members. If you're not a member, you don't even know about this, but we do an extra show every single day just for our members. It keeps the show funded. It pays for staff, studio, equipment, all of that stuff. And if we get 10 new members this evening, I will open up the phone lines, okay? If people want to call in at 617-830-4750, I will gladly take phone calls tonight from leftists, rightists, whoever, okay? We don't screen the phone calls unless you've already called and I have you in caller ID, in which case we do screen. 10 new members, and I will open up the phone lines. Don't troll the live chat. We have multiple moderators who are doing a really great job. We have unbanned Jimmy from Philly, who complained about being banned previously, so he is now allowed to comment again. But you will get banned if you troll. And you can also use the join button down below in order to get a YouTube channel membership. So let me, there's a whole bunch of comments and questions and super chats coming in. So let me take a look at those. Frenic32 says, why do the Twitter links to these streams never work? That doesn't sound good. Let me take a look at that. If that's the case, I've been doing something very, very wrong for a long time. David Pacman Show. Let's take a look here. So here is the link We're live streaming now. Join the insanity. If you click the link and click play, there I am. It's working fine. I don't know what people are talking about. Must be user error of some kind. I'm not sure what to tell you, Frenick. Okay. Mark Tenenbaum says, on the 510 show, you said business owners should not be forced to sell ownership to employees. Do you support Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax, which will force many to sell ownership if not enough liquid cash for tax? I addressed this on today's program, Mark. I have serious questions about the wealth tax idea by Elizabeth Warren. I think that it is legally cleaner to go after increasing capital gains. So here's the issue: if we're trying to, if the idea is to use taxation on the wealthiest in order to fund programs for the poor and the lower middle class and the middle class or whoever else, I think that if you focus only on income tax rates, you're going to miss a lot of that money, because a lot of rich people are earning most of their income through business distributions and through generally what's called capital gains. So you've got to go after capital gains. Now, some people like Elizabeth Warren and others are skipping to a wealth tax, and I think that it's a little bit problematic on two fronts. Number one, legally, I think that it is difficult to be sure that a wealth tax would be implementable, so to speak. And I've read some legal opinions to that of that opinion. I also do have a problem. If you're taxing the net worth and not the liquid assets of people, a lot of that net worth could be in stocks. That net worth could be in a business that one owns or whatever else. So you are absolutely right, Mark, that there are some real issues with a wealth tax, which could force many to sell ownership if they don't have enough liquid cash for tax. So I don't even know that we have to go down that road ideologically yet, because I would go after capital gains right away. Demetrios1975 sent a $10 super chat saying, I gave up on Dave Rubin about 6 months ago, but if he has the integrity to sit down with you, I'd be inclined to subscribe to his channel again. Also, you should interview Tulsi Gabbard. We've invited Tulsi Gabbard on the show, have not heard back at all from anybody there. So I don't know if she's inclined to be interviewed by me, but I would gladly welcome her to the program. As you're saying, I think that if Dave Rubin sat down with me for an hour on his show, on my show, wherever, and we really hashed out all of these things, including some of his attacks on the left and all of this other stuff, I think that it would do a lot for his audience. I know it would do a lot for my audience. So there's also a selfish motivation there, and I don't pretend to hide that. I think it would just be good watching, and we would accomplish a lot, much more than letting some right-winger uncontested talk for an hour and a half. Nope Games sent a $1 super chat. Cuckoldie of Kakad sent a $5 super chat. David, you really do ask gotcha questions like, what is your political positions? Yeah, that's a reference, I think, to the Rubin interview where there really weren't gotcha questions. It was quite the opposite, but we'll republish that, and I think you will find it interesting. Alex Malone sent a super chat. I was really excited to call you during the last live stream and was crushed when I heard that my number didn't appear. Can you check if my number is blocked? I don't have to check, Alex, because nobody's numbers are blocked. Now, sometimes what does happen is people call in from a different number than they think they're calling in from. So I'm trying to see if I have on my legal pad here some of the people who were getting priority on the last live stream. I don't. But like, for example, sometimes people will say, hey, I'm going to call in from the 617 area code. And then they call in from Skype and it shows a different number in the call system. So nobody's blocked, Alex. So that's definitely not the problem. But we will hopefully open the phone lines today. Brian Stevens wants to have a cooking competition between you and Rubin, between me and Rubin. I didn't know Rubin cooked. I thought that Rubin's husband did the cooking from what I've seen on Instagram. So I don't know if the competition should be between with Rubin or with Rubin's husband. Yeah. Eris is Love sends a $2 super chat. Raygun mentioned the orange gels on the Majority Report today. You know what's so funny about that? Sam Cedar actually texted me about orange gels, but they're gone. As a sort of goof and as a test, because I had them lying around because I got a multi-pack of gels, I put some orange on these two panels, I guess you would call them, a couple of weeks ago, but they didn't last long. I haven't seen that clip though. So if anyone can, what's the easiest way? If anyone can super chat a link to the clip from Majority Report and a time code. We'll watch it together because I haven't actually seen that, and I would like to see it. Let me welcome a new member, Jared Haggerty. Jared Haggerty is this evening's first new member. Thanks for signing up on our website, Jared. Let me mention again, I will open up the phone lines right away, okay? Don't tempt me because I am ready to open the phone lines and I will prove it to you at 617-830-4750. As soon as we get to 10 new members, membership is the #1 funding source for the show. It keeps us independent. It makes us less susceptible to the devastating effects of YouTube's demonetization. It's just a great thing to sign up, okay? And if you sign up on our website and 9 more people do that today, we will open up the phone lines. And I see, it's funny, just by my mere mention of the phone number, people immediately start calling in and leaving voicemails. Just as like I mean, this is risky, but just as a curiosity, let's take a listen to some of the voicemails that came in, even though we haven't opened the phone lines yet. Let's take a listen to one of these.
Hey, how you doing there, David Packman? This is Johnny here, and out of Arizona. And I have to point out the fact that with the Ben Shapiro nonsense that took place with BBC, you kind of destroyed this guy, man. I would really enjoy seeing you debate Ben Shapiro.
Okay, well, so it's so funny. I mean, we opened up today by talking about this clamoring for me to debate Ben or debate Dave Rubin or whatever. I'm glad to have them on anytime. I'm glad to appear with them anytime. And we are going to be republishing my interviews with both of them next week when I'm on vacation. Work trip / Memorial Day vacation. Let's listen to one other voicemail that came in. Phone line's not yet open. You could talk to me if we get 9 more new members, but for now you would have to leave a voicemail. Let's see.
Hey, Pac-Man, Total Control 871. Yeah, so Shapiro had his total meltdown, and he kind of went out like a whiny little bitch. But my point is, doesn't everybody do that in their respective political parties? I mean, don't you do that? True, you might not speak with a whiny little bitch voice, and you might not have had an on-air meltdown.
Okay.
At least not to date, anyway. But you pretty much do the same thing. I mean, it's a practice of, this is my political view, and I am going to...
Okay, so anyway, I mean, I did not pre-listen to those, and as I told you, since yesterday's Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin segments, it has just been crazy. I mean, it's constant emails and tweets and stuff like this coming in. Okay, let me get back to the super chats. But again, to deal with this ray gun related thing, if somebody can get me a time code and a link, and maybe if someone can put them in the regular chat, I'll keep an eye out for it as well. I would love to take a look at that and we can review it together. Okay, Nope Games sends $1 super chat. Thank you. Bamiro Adegbuyi says, after watching today's show, I have to say that my brain is still in recovery mode from taking in so many high-level important ideas. I don't know if that's a Rubin joke or if there were actually interesting ideas on the David Pakman show today. But if you're being serious, I do appreciate that. Okay, let me see if anybody has sent me the link yet to the Majority Report thing about the sets today. That would be great if someone posted that, but I'm not seeing it. Maybe it's taking people a little while to get it together, the link and the time code. But anyway, we can look at that together if somehow people get it to me. Okay, Blackwave54 says, was poppin' Pac-Man. Do you know what's up with the embassy ting? Was really Gucci with that. Gang Gert. Okay, yeah, I'm having trouble understanding the specifics of your question, but I do appreciate your support. Sabrina Zafar, who's also been fully deputized as a moderator in the chat. How do we convince people to vote based on policy during the primaries versus electability? Noticing too many progressive Biden supporters lately. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think that I don't know the answer. I genuinely have no idea. And, especially when electability matters. Here's the thing. It's not that we should ignore electability. It's that this is an election that on turnout it will hinge on turnout alone, right? It was so close in 2016 in just these few states that Democrats could easily win that solely on the basis of turnout, there could be any of the top at least 4, if not more, Democratic candidates could actually win. In other words, they are electable. It's a question of what the turnout is, and that's a part of electability. So I don't have the answer, Sabrina, although I wish I did. Okay, it looks like I've gotten a link here to the Sam Cedar thing. I just need a time code, and I don't know. Let me see if I can get this pulled up for us so we can watch it. That we will be looking at this together because I haven't seen this yet. Yeah, so it's a very long video, so people have to actually give me the time code for where it appears, because otherwise I can't look through like a 2-hour stream right now. But okay, maybe I have to forget about that because it's not going to happen. Okay, let's go back to the super chat. Plato Emerson, I'd love to see you in a suit and tie sometime. I used to wear ties on the show, but I did away with it. It just seemed pointless. Like, I'm my own boss. Why am I forcing myself to wear a tie? That seems crazy. Hideyoshi Lakan says, I used to right wing. You used to right wing, but you helped me change my mind and move left. Thank you. My pleasure. That is a good, I've done a good deed. It's a mitzvah. I appreciate that. Dylan Tyler says, hey, David, I have a question regarding Ben Shapiro. Do you believe that his habit of cherry-picking facts to push his political agenda hurts his reputation as a political commentator? Yeah, so it does hurt his reputation within people who are informed enough to recognize that he's cherry-picking facts, but it makes him very appealing to a larger swath of the population that is so-called low information. So in the net, it's probably a benefit to him to do that. Okay, let's see. Eris is Love says that the time code is 3846 for the Sam Cedar thing. Now I lost the link somehow. How can I put, this shouldn't be so complicated, but I am having trouble getting this together. Let's take a look here. Maybe I can just do Sam Cedar and maybe we can find it. Let's take a look here. Streamed 4 hours ago. Okay, so we're going to go there. And then the time code is 3846. I don't even know what that, 11113. Okay, so let's skip this ad and go to 11113 and see what happened today. 11113. Here we go.
And then it's going to be real hard for you to go full hashtag spoiler alert.
Seems like it's early.
Anonymous donations moving forward, that'd be possible. But if people want information, that's where it's at. So.
All right, great. And
thanks for making that happen. That was really you who helped promote that and made that all possible. So.
Well, good for you for doing it. All right, but let's return back to more critical issues, and we will put a link to the Bond Fund page in our podcast and our YouTube description. We do have an image of David Pakman and a new set. Is this accurate? What is this picture?
Well, this is from Dark Marin on Twitter. So
this could be edited.
It looks a little suspicious.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess this is the. We're going to air it, and we'll have our forensic experts look into it. But there looks like some orange accents on the left side of his.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, not looks like, it is orange accents on the left side. Now, that's not clear to me that it's actually his set. But if it is getting really problematic. Really problematic. So
the problem is you set the tone. You already set the tone, and then it's going to be real hard for you to go full hashtag spoiler alert Daenerys season 8 episode 5.
Well, as my attorney,
you're going to get a lot of
make it happen. As my attorney, you'll make it happen. All right. Appreciate the call. Just start getting the paperwork ready.
Right.
Bye. One more call.
All right, I guess that was it. Okay, yeah. So, yes, I actually texted with Sam about this today, and we were actually texting about other things, but it eventually came to the orange panels, and I am anticipating a cease and desist soon. But I'm retaining Mark O'Mara. I was first going to be represented by Mark Garagos, celebrity attorney Mark Garagos, but I feel like I need the guy who got George Zimmerman off on murder charges because I need just like the best. Whatever the craziest thing that someone's gotten off of, for, that's who I need representing me. And that's Florida attorney Mark O'Mara, who, by the way, I've met and is a really, really nice guy. I know a lot of people would say, how nice can you be if you defend George Zimmerman? But he's an extremely nice guy. I once went to a concert with him and a few other people, and it was a weird, weird night. Very, very strange night. Okay, before I get to more of these super chats, let me welcome a few other new members. We're looking for 10 new members in order to open the phone lines this evening. James Eshrich, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is new member number 2 of the evening. TJ Tolson is new member number 3 of the evening. And as an extra incentive, because we're at 3 out of 10, I've tried this before and people seem to like it. If you are one of the 10 new members who triggers, for lack of a better term, the end of a safe space for me and gets me to open the phone lines, and you want to be one of the first callers, when you sign up for a membership in either the first or last name field, like if your name was David Pacman, you might put David 617, if 617 was your area code, Pacman. When you sign up, include your area code. I will make a note on one of my pads. I've got all sorts of pads down here. It's just paperwork after paperwork. I will make a note of your area code so that when we open the phone lines, I will first go to you. Okay, it's an extra incentive for the people that get us to open the phone lines. Rand Miller says, I am a recovering addict of about 6 years, and I would love to see some talk and debates about what to do with honest help for addiction with individual care. Thank you. Oh, that's a great topic. I'm not an expert in it, but an important topic and one I'm glad to bring experts on to discuss. The progressive voice appears asking, could Vegeta go Sajij 2 without Babidi's Majik? No idea. Absolutely no idea about any of that stuff. Couldn't tell you anything about it. Nate with a $13.99 Canadian, $13 super chat. Thoughts on Rubin's claim that TYT has dishonestly presented Harris and Maher as bigots simply for criticizing Islam, is personally unsubscribed from TYT for this reason. Rubin unsubscribed from TYT for that reason? I'm not sure I understand that. I honestly don't have any idea of how TYT has presented Sam Harris and Bill Maher. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I saw, like years ago, I saw a bunch of that Cenk Uygur sit down with Sam Harris. And other than that, I don't know. I mean, I barely watch anything. Joe Rader says, thoughts on funding NASA to return to the moon by 2024? Will Trump raid education to do it? Well, Trump is liable to raid anything, to do anything that he determines is politically advantageous. I've been advocating for going back to the moon for a couple of years now. And I think that given everything that we now know and the advancement of space travel technology since we last went to the moon, there would be huge benefits, and the moon would be a really important testing ground for further space travel. So I absolutely would be up for funding NASA for a return to the moon, and 2024 sounds great. Sooner sounds great also, right? I mean, whenever we can do it, no question. And yes, Trump may well raid education in order to do it. Demetrios 1975 says, I know you spent money on new Hatriot Mail background music, but I think you should ditch it and go back to the original music. The new music is clunky and doesn't flow well with the narration. I don't know about that. Let's see if we can, let's take a look at some Hatriot Mail. We have 3, or actually, I don't even need to do that. I have a better way of doing this. I can just pull up the 3 songs that we use for Hatriot Mail, and then we can take sort of like an Insta poll. Okay, so the original Hatriot Mail music was, I guess it's this one. Let's take a listen to this one. Oh, sorry. No, you know what? I'm so stupid. That's the actual intro music. Man, I'm not going to be able to easily do it. I think, you know what? I think it's going to be overly complex for me to do that right now. You know, people are mixed, and there's always this self-selection where people who dislike stuff we do are much more likely to reach out than people who like something. So we're going to stick with the 3 different backing tracks for Hatriot Mail for now, and then we will make it a further decision later on in the year. Eris's love, thank you for sending me the time code for the Sam Cedar thing. We looked at it. SoxFan223 says, Dave, my conservative girlfriend hates catching me watching David Pakman clips online. Advice on getting her on board ideologically. I don't want to play conservative. Yeah, whoa, I would be extraordinarily careful about how you manage this situation, Sox fan. There are lots. You don't reason your way into being a right winger. So the idea of just reasoning someone out of it is difficult. And you've also got a very touchy situation because this is your girlfriend. So I don't know. I think I would just continue playing clips in the background and see if it will sort of by sheer repetition maybe invade her safe space. Jimmy from Philly has sent a super chat. Jelly sandwiches stigmatize kids at school. Bah ha ha. I hope that was worth $2, Jimmy. But you know what? I really can't criticize Jimmy from Philly. Jimmy from Philly is a violent, in his rhetoric, Trumpist. And he is a David Pakman Show member, okay? For all of the progressives who can afford $3 a month and who like the show and aren't supporting us financially, Jimmy from Philly, who leaves voicemail messages like this one. I haven't listened to this, so this could be crazy. Let's see.
David, Jimmy from Philly. You worked at Circuit City? I made up a protest sign in front of Circuit City, outside in Dixon City, Pennsylvania. I bought a CD scratch fixer thingy for like $20-some, and it didn't work. And I brought it back, and the guys, they got all these.
Absolutely riveting. But in any case, that guy is a member. He just sent a $2 super chat. Okay, so. Anyway, the point is, we can't just be funded by conservatives. We've got to also be funded by progressives. And that's why I want to say thanks to Brian Parker. Brian Parker from the 760 area code is new member number 4 of the evening. So I'm going to make a note right down here. 760 is Brian Parker. And if we open up the phone lines, if we get 6 more new members, we will go first to Brian, who has certainly earned the right to be heard from first, for sure. Okay, Dylan Tyler says, as a follow-up to my previous question, would you consider giving your viewers all the relevant facts and allowing them to come to their own conclusion, paramount to being a respectable commentator? If you mean, am I willing to make this no longer an opinion show? The answer is no. I think that would be horribly boring. I mean, listen, that's what I tried to do in like the first 6 months of the show, just on the one hand and on the other hand. And I don't take a position, and the show was going nowhere. So no, I don't want to commit programming suicide. So it has to remain an opinion show, Dylan. That's a key part of what the program is. Sam Dean says, "G'day, mate. Here's a donation to help buy your lawyer a coffee. Gelgate will not bring us down, comrade. No retreat, no surrender. Cheers from Oz." Thank you very much. Cuckoldie of Kakad says, David, just declare yourself as a sovereign citizen and problem solved. I don't know if you mean with regard to paying taxes or what. Jessica Everett is a new YouTube member. Jessica used the join button down below, and she is new member number 5 of the evening. We're halfway to 10, and when we get to 10, I will open up the phone lines. People are just very, very excited about the possibility of the phone lines opening. I see 1, 2, 3 more voicemails that have come in, even though the phone lines aren't yet open. The phone lines have not yet opened, but if they do, I will be sure to tell you. Indie Odd Jobs says, do you believe the two-party system should be excised? Well, the two-party duopoly must be gotten rid of, but unfortunately, it's going to take a bunch of different systemic changes to make that a reality. 1, we probably need to get rid of the Electoral College in order to have serious third-party representation in our congressional and political system. Number 2, we've got to redo from the ground up the campaign finance and finance of politics infrastructure so that we can better allow third parties to be represented and not to feel and actually be potential spoilers, which is why a lot of people don't support third parties. So yeah, I want to get away from the two-party duopoly, but we need some big systemic change to make it happen. Ghost of a Dead Meme says, David, you need to get Twitch. There's no downside. You know, I've been thinking about starting to produce content for Twitch, and the easiest way to start would be to simul stream YouTube and Twitch stuff at the same time. But unfortunately, Twitch doesn't allow that if you want to monetize, I believe. Someone wrote to me and said, that's not a good idea. And I just don't know that I have the bandwidth right now to be independently producing just like a ton of extra Twitch stuff because I'm pretty busy, believe it or not. Cuckle Die of Kakad says, David, are you pro-nuclear as a stepping stone? Yes. I'm not going to delve into that in too much detail because I have numerous clips about that. But yes, I am. Rex Soul says, do you like Cloud Strife or Sephiroth? I don't know if those are video games or heavy metal bands. Unfortunately, I'm very, very out of the loop. Frenic32 says, Jimmy from Philly is a Pac-Man plant. I assure you that he is not. I assure you that he is absolutely not a plant. He is what he is and in his full glory. EYTPS says, David Pac-Man, will you ever interview Dan Penna? I have no idea who that is. Let's look that up. Dan Penna. Dan Penna, also known as Dan Pena, is an American businessman. He resides at Guthrie Castle in Scotland. Oh, I actually have heard of this guy, and I would be very interested in interviewing him. Yeah, I would love to have him on if he's willing, and I don't know if he is. Gabriel Fret sends a 50 Norwegian kroner super chat. Watching Ben Shapiro disaster while being very familiar with Andrew Neil made it 10 times funnier. Yeah, I'm only tangentially familiar with Andrew Neil, so I actually had to research him to understand like the full scope of what was going on there. But it was an implosion to the nth degree for sure. Let me welcome a couple of other people. Christopher Howard is a new patron. I will count patrons, okay? In fact, I will give you an extra possibility for getting us to open the phone lines this evening. Let me pull up my Patreon page. David Pac-Man Show. Let me see here. We've not done a lot. I have really let the Patreon page trail off. And we were once at 2,000 patrons, and we're down to only 1,422. So let me say the following. If we get 10, even $1 Patreon contributions, whichever we get to first, 10 members or 10 Patreon contributions, and Patreon contributions start at just $1 when you hit this orange become a patron button, I will open the phone lines, okay? And that means that with only 10 more dollars contributed, 10 $1 contributions, we might have those phone lines open before you know it. So Christopher Howard is patron number 1 of the evening. Then we have new member number 6 of the evening, Trevor Christensen, and new member number 7 of the evening, Stephen Davis, and new member number 8 of the evening, Abaya Dake or Dake. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. So we are at 8 new members, and we are at 1 new patron. When we get to 10 of either of them, I will open the phone lines up, and I see that Karem from Boston is calling in feverishly. I see that Hassan from Dallas is calling in, and everybody just wants to get on today. And there will be that opportunity, believe me, if we get 10 new patrons or 10 new members, and it will be extraordinarily exciting, that I assure you. A Dev is a new YouTube member. Thank you for signing up. Joe Rader says, everyone tune in to SpaceX's unprecedented launch of their own 60 satellites at once tomorrow. At once. Maybe that means at 1 tomorrow on YouTube, if not delayed. I will be paying attention to that if it works with the show schedule for sure. Murphy, Rogan seems to have ties with higher-ups at Twitter and YouTube. Could we see a YouTube presidential debate, maybe for those who don't make it on the main stage? That would be fascinating, and I will volunteer myself to moderate if Rogan would have me. Yeah. Shosoy Baboso says AMLO wants to decriminalize all drugs and negotiate with the United States to do the same. Yeah, I'm all for decriminalization of drugs. I've said I am still undecided about legalization of like cocaine and heroin. I've seen good arguments for and against, and I've just not yet taken a position on that. Randy H says, I started a membership about a week or two ago, and it's great. For Twitch, I would just do the double stream, not make content, use it as a gateway to YouTube. Yeah, the thing is, if I do Twitch, I think if I'm just using it as a gateway to YouTube, I don't know how worthwhile it will be because I have no audience on Twitch. So I'd have to build an audience from scratch in order to get them to YouTube. So I think monetizing Twitch is the logical thing, but I've been told if you are simul streaming the same stuff to Twitch that you do to YouTube, that there is no monetization available, or they don't want you monetizing it. I don't know. The Pyro Tyrant is a new YouTube member. Very much appreciate that. And oh, we've got a bunch of different. I think the phone lines are probably getting open soon. So Frenic31 is new patron number 2 of the evening. Patrick Burns is new patron number 3 of the evening. And Partario is new patron number 4 of the evening. So that gets us to 4 new patrons. Matthew Barr is new patron number 5 of the evening. It's gonna be a race. I said that if we get 10 new members or 10 new patrons, I'll open up the phone lines. We're at 8 new members and 5 new patrons. Let me refresh this. But patrons are coming fast and furious at this point. So I wonder what will lead to the phone lines being open first. And the phone lines are blowing up. Jimmy from Philly's trying to get on again. Hassan from Dallas is still trying to get on feverently. I wonder if feverently is still in Urban Dictionary. Let me look at that. Urban Dictionary, feverent. Yeah, here it is. This is so funny. Feverent, top definition, adjective, wildly zealous, a portmanteau of feverish and fervent, unintentionally coined by Louis Motamedi of the David Pakman Show. It seems like this is a direct quote. It seems like the only people who are going to vote for Rand Paul are that small libertarian section of the Republican Party, and they're very passionate and fervent, and they support him with every fiber of their being. I love that. So Louis, yeah, that's an old thing from former producer Louis. Whoa, that just got a little crazy. And I saw producer Louis today. He parked his car at my place because he's actually en route to Japan today, just for kicks. You know what? Let's do something fun, which we never do on the show. Let's track Louis's flight to Japan. He is on, let's see, the Japanese Airlines flight from Boston to Tokyo. Let's see where I'm going to tell you exactly where producer Louis is right now, in case you're curious. It is this flight right here, JAL 7. And he is over very northern Alaska. Can you imagine right now being Louis over very northern Alaska and having no idea, I guess, that we're talking about him right now? But that's where Louis is, and he has left his car under my supervision for the duration of his trip, and I'm going to be beating the hell out of that thing. So he is going to come back to something very, very, very disappointing for sure. Okay, let me get to a couple of other super chats here. Let's see. Smells Like Purple says, I once called to ask a question and thought my number was up when I heard you say just the first 2 sevens. After that, I heard 4, my dreams were crushed. Nothing to say now, just wanted to support you. Rest in peace, 775. Yeah, I go to 774 often because it's a local area code, but I will go to 775 as well. Joe Rader says the SpaceX launch is at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. A Dev says, how do you stay so calm in this completely insane environment? It's desensitization. I wish I had a better explanation, but it's just being desensitized to the insanity of American politics. Dimitrios, 1975, you should go on Joe Rogan's podcast. Kolinsky and Dorr have been on twice. I think you'd be great. Also, Rogan likes you. I would love to be on with Joe Rogan, and hopefully I will soon be able to announce that I'm going to be on. Esh Daddy says, what organizations would you recommend for progressives AC 210? I don't know what that means. For progressives AC 2, area code 210. I don't know. I hesitate to recommend organizations to people for a bunch of different reasons, including that I don't know of that many organizations. I apologize. Okay, we're going to get the phone lines open because we are just receiving a flood of new members. Let's see. David Gwynn, I always am unsure how to say it, is a new member. Thank you. Zay Nasif, or Nasif, is a new member. And Jake from the 313 area code is a new member. So I am right now opening up the phone lines at 617-830-4750. I'm going to make a note that Jake from 313 wants to get on. And then we will go to the phone lines, 617-830-4750. By all means, continue with the super chats and the because I will get to those and new memberships and Patreon and all of that different stuff. But I will check in with some people on the phone. I promised that I would do it, and it would be very dishonest if I didn't. Let's see. I'm going to go to Hassan from Dallas in a second. Just give me a second, Hassan. It just takes a moment for the system to be fully engaged. I need to activate the system on my end. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, Hassan from Dallas, you should be on. What's going on today?
Hello?
Hey, Hassan, what's going on?
Oh, it's Deshaun. I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's Sean?
It's Deshaun. Deshaun.
Deshaun. Okay, I had you in the system as Hassan. You probably were wondering that who I was talking about. Okay, Deshaun, formerly Hassan. I will update that in our system. Thank you.
Okay, formerly, yeah. So I have a two-part question here. My first question is, do you support the expansion of the the seats in the House of Representatives by a couple hundred seats? I've been actually reading a couple articles saying that our House of Representatives here in the United States is currently capped at somewhere like in the 400s. But if we were to actually have a House of Representatives that was more aligned with like a lot of other industrialized countries that have like algorithms, like, you know, they add seats based on some kind of like algorithmic thing that they have that we don't have in our Constitution. And so if we were to do that, our current House of Representatives, the amount of representatives that we would have for a nation of 350 million people is somewhere around like 900 seats.
Yeah, I am in favor of that. And so here's the thing. I think that we need to have each member of Congress representing fewer people. I think right now it's about 750,000 people roughly in each congressional district. I think that's too much. And I do want to, I would be in support of that.
Okay, awesome. And I know I brought that up because you talked about the Electoral College earlier. So I just wanted to, you know, you were talking about that. So I wanted you to support that. So it's cool. And my second part of my question, or my second question, which is kind of irrelevant to the first, is about Andrew Yang. And I don't know, I saw you posted on Twitter, you commented to Carlos, what's his name? But he basically had retweeted Pete Buttigieg's press secretary, who was talking about.
I saw that.
Who asked Dave Rubin to DM him on Twitter to set up something. But I saw Andrew Yang apparently has already, you know, decided he was going to go into Dave Rubin's show. But what's interesting for me with that, and I don't know about you, it's just like, I get you want to show up to like right wingers like shows, you know, for Andrew Yang, but like, isn't it kind of bizarre that he seems to be so fervent at doing it, and he doesn't really like, how do I put it? He's not a great debater on the issue. Like,
well, he doesn't debate. Again, he provides a platform. He's not really debating. He's not debating anyone.
Right, and so he goes on, like he went on Ben Shapiro's show and did the Sunday sit down that I thought was kind of bad, because he ended up backtracking, at least in my opinion, of where I thought he was in the Green New Deal. He kind of actually took a Republican talking point and he literally said on there that even if the United States did, like, you know, go 100% renewable, that it wouldn't matter because we're only 13% of the global emissions. It's just like, well, we have to be a leader.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You know,
I would have liked to have actually just seen that been more adversarial and have them actually hash out ideas rather than the way that it was handled.
Yeah, and that's Ben Shapiro. Like, if there's someone you're going to have a debate with, or you should have policy conflicts with, you'd think it'd be Ben Shapiro if you're on the left, you know?
Yep.
But yeah, that's really disappointing. So I don't know. Andrew Yang has been really missing a lot for me.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll try
I
to
just
have
wanted to
every time I have him on, I question him about all of this stuff people have a problem with, and I'll certainly do it again. Deshaun, thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
thank you so much.
All right, take
Yeah, no,
care. Let's see. So I've got my priority caller. Let's see. Do we have someone from 760? Yes, we do. Let me go right to the 760 because
gonna get me.
760, I believe, is Brian Parker. Is that you, Brian?
Yeah,
Hey, how's
this
it
is
going?
Brian.
Thank you for your support, Brian.
Yeah, no problem. Wow, I'm really surprised I'm on the show. Hey, David, I'm a big fan. I'm 21 years old. I live in New York. My zip code is, or my area code is from California. But anyway, I moved to New York because of the Army. I was stationed at Fort Drum. And I was, as a young person, I was actually a early Donald Trump supporter.
Hmm.
And my time in the military and just getting a little older kind of woke me up, and I completely turned around. I'm now like a progressive, and I think what had a lot to do with that was right-wing propaganda in the media. Well, in social media. I just wanted to ask what you thought about that.
So you're saying the right-wing propaganda is what initially indoctrinated you into Trumpism, or you ended up leaving Trumpism because of right-wing propaganda that you saw and didn't like?
Oh, no. As a young person, I was influenced by the right-wing, like,
I see.
influence on social media, and I saw the right-wing as kind of like facts over feelings type of thing, and I was like a really big supporter. And but some experiences I had in the military really changed my mind. And yeah, that's.
Listen, I mean, we know
that's
that the
kind of what I
online
wanted to
the
talk
online
about.
echo chamber of right-wing propaganda is absolutely devastating and toxic. And
Right.
you're an example of how you got into that. Now, what's like one experience in the military that changed your mind?
Just I went through a lot of abuse in the military from people who were very ardent Trump supporters, right wing, kind of I saw a lot of racism, a lot of homophobia in the military. And it really woke me up. I realized that the hateful people in the military just really changed my mind.
You know, what's interesting
And,
about that, Brian, is that there are others who experience the same thing in the military and they become more right wing. So, it would be
Right,
interesting
yes.
to think about why for you it had the repellent effect.
Yes, that interests me too, because I know a lot of people in the military that are just kind of going with the flow, because it really is an environment of abuse. And a lot of the times, the military is a great institution, but the right-wing majority in the military really indoctrinates people, and they just kind of have to stay in that ideology. And it had a profound impact on me.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Brian, I appreciate your support. Thanks for being a member and really appreciate you sharing your experience.
Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Okay, I'm next going to go to 313 because that's another new member, but let me go through a couple super chats here. Picturing My Love says, I recently bought the Holy Bible and the Quran to see for myself what they have to offer. What book should I start reading first on Google Play Books? I have no idea. I mean, there's hundreds of books I could recommend to you depending on what you're looking for, but check my book recommendation segments, and I have a whole page on the David Pakman Show website that has a long list of books that I've recommended over the years. Craw Rennie says, have you heard of Nico House of MCSC? He accuses you of being a centrist neoliberal often. Do you think that's a fair description of your politics? An example can be seen at the 2856 mark of a video he did with Kyle, I presume Kulinski. I've heard the name because it's one of the people that would sometimes appear, that people would be tweeting me stuff in those barrages of, here's like the firm, the guy Jimmy from Philly talks about, like the firm bastard or something like that. Here's this other person. I have not seen what you're talking about, and I'm not a centrist neoliberal. I just did my political compass thing, and I'm more left than I've ever been, almost off the charts. So, And I don't really watch any of that stuff. I'm just check out my interview today with Cal Newport about reducing noise and increasing signal, and you'll very quickly understand why I pay effectively no attention to the cottage industry of people who just make videos criticizing me. I'm just busy hosting my show. Cuckle Die of Caca, David, have you considered doing what some consider pro men's rights activist videos? I know for sure that will open the door for many right-wingers on YouTube. I know when Anna Kay did this, it worked. Pro men's rights activist videos. No, that's not something I've considered doing. And Cuckle Die of Kakad says, can you ask Progressive Voice to unblock Hassan and release him from the gulag of Tweeter? I don't know anything about that. Okay, let's go to the 313 area code, who I believe is this Jake Osborne, new member Jake Osborne?
Yeah, this is.
Hey, Jake, how you
I'm
doing?
calling
Thank you
from-
for your support.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for your show. I've been watching the show for, I think, 2 years now, going on 2 years, and my girlfriend and I really enjoy your content.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So I'm calling from Grand Rapids, and sort of like the last caller, my question has to do with the sort of anti-SJW movement you find on YouTube. I guess I just wanted to get your thoughts on what do you think is creating this appetite for that kind of content? Like, in your opinion, what do you think is doing it? Because if I can, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to add, like, I got sucked into that whole movement because I really, it's interesting. I actually like Let's Plays and watching video game culture on YouTube as a huge following.
Yeah.
And I really got like into Game Grumps, and there was a guy on that channel called John, and now he has his own channel called JonTron. And then he sort of got, there was a big scandal with John you may have heard about where he actually went on.
I don't even know who JonTron is, honestly.
It's all tied together because Destiny actually interviewed him, and that created a huge scandal. And I didn't like that because I kind of like John, and so it kind of like threw me down this rabbit hole of all this, like, because it basically sucked me into the rabbit hole of the anti-SJW movement. And then, how the algorithm is super dangerous. I got sucked into that. And then long story short, you pulled me out of it.
Thank you. Listen, here's what I think, Jake. Okay, here's my, there's no one explanation for why anti-SJW content is appealing to everybody because it's different for different people. But here's a couple different things to understand. Number one, anytime that you see something, so the term SJW has become stigmatized and sort of weaponized as something that you use against people. There is no serious case to be made that there are not structural realities that prevent everyone from experiencing society and culture in the same way. And if you want social justice, part of it is recognizing that these structural inequalities exist and working to reduce them. Now, are there examples of people who go overboard? Of course there are. But the anti-SJW movement has sort of weaponized that sentiment by caricaturing it. And the most important element to me of why these movements are appealing, it's similar actually with the race and IQ, the race realists. It's that we often, as people, just have these instincts towards simple explanations for stuff. And when you find material that seems to credibly reinforce that the simple explanation and the easy explanation is the right one, it's really appealing to people. So like, as an example, the race realists, right? You have all sorts of people who have built up this idea that people who are not successful and people who are poor and people who commit more crime or whatever are doing those things because they are either inherently less intelligent or bad people or whatever. And then in order to like break that apart, you really need to do some serious work, right? You need to really understand history and sociology and economics and all of this different stuff. So when someone shows up and says, hey, you know what? You don't have to do that difficult stuff. The thing that you sort of instinctively went towards, which some might call racist, xenophobic, whatever, discriminatory, it was right and it's okay that you're thinking that. That's super appealing. And that's the same thing with the anti-SJW movement. So-called calls for social justice make us have to deal seriously and deeply with ugly realities about society and culture. If someone swoops in and says, these SJWs are just bonkers and we've got to ignore them and move ahead because they're making bad arguments and that's it, that is really easy and appealing and safe for a lot of people. And that's what I think a lot of the appeal is, to give you maybe a longer answer than you were looking for.
No, I completely agree with that. That's more along the lines of what I thought. And speaking as somebody who did kind of get sucked into that for a little bit, I noticed there was a huge appetite just to see like young, passionate people getting owned. I mean, that's who these guys are debating most of the time.
Yeah.
Steven Crowder, Ben Shapiro, they get money from debating 18-year-olds.
Yep.
It's pretty embarrassing. And that's another reason why I thought that video of him just getting completely destroyed by
a guy
Andrew
who didn't
Neil
even debate him and just asked questions. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean talk about throwing all your cards on the table there. I mean, we can see right through his operation now. Well, hey, thanks so much for taking my call.
Jake, my pleasure.
I
Really
appreciate
appreciate your support and appreciate that you signed up for membership today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right. Let me thank a couple of other people. I want to say thanks to Nina Trimbath, who is a new David Pakman Show member. Really appreciate that. Let's go to the 413 area code. Anytime I see a caller from 413, my home area code, I go right to it. Who's calling today from the 413?
Hey, this is Jordan from Springfield.
Hey, Jordan, what's going on?
Hey, so I had a kind of an identity politics question.
Sure.
You're obviously aware of the old, what's his name, Sam Harris meme of Islamophobia in regards to the left conflating criticism with Islam with criticism of Muslims as people. As you know, you've dealt with Reza Aslan, for instance.
Sure.
My question is, do you think there's a similar meme of anti-Semitism on the right, where they conflate criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism outright?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen similar things.
I
Yeah,
have
just wanted
seen
to
it.
get
So
your
here's
take
the
on
thing. There is, understand that there is no answer I could give you that is not going to, as always, just cause a shitstorm of people saying I'm either wrong on one side or wrong on the other side. But here's the reality. The reality is nuanced, okay? Criticism of Israeli foreign policy is not inherently anti-Semitic. Criticism of Israeli domestic policy is not inherently anti-Semitic. Criticism of the Benjamin Netanyahu administration for what it is as a right-wing administration is not inherently anti-Semitic. So criticism of all of those things is not definitive evidence of anti-Semitism. At the same time, there are people who shield their anti-Semitism as a policy critique or whatever else. So there is no set rule, right? You have to understand, just because you see criticism of Israel doesn't mean that it's anti-Semitic. At the same time, just because someone claims that a critique is a shield for anti-Semitism doesn't mean that they are wrong. All of these things exist.
All right. Solid answer. I appreciate it.
Jordan, thank you. Appreciate it. Great to hear from you. Okay, let me look at a couple of other super chats that are coming in. The New York Times has apologized for a cartoon published portraying Trump as a blind man being guided by the Israeli prime minister. Do you consider it anti-Semitic? Regards from Portugal. I considered it sort of stupid, but I did not consider it inherently anti-Semitic. I think that the imagery was very similar to anti-Semitic imagery, but you know, the New York Times recognizes that it was a bad idea to publish that, and they apologized, and I think that's that. Bola Newland from Sweden, I believe. Tim Pool announced he is taking a break. Maybe you explaining that Twitter don't consciously target right-wingers, but rather target ideas made him quit. I had no idea. And, you know, I was actually a little worried because after the 1 hour thing we did last week, I sent Tim an email and said, you know, thanks. I think it went well. I just straight up never heard back from him. And I didn't know what was going on. And I had no idea he was taking a break. I will look into that. Jimmy from Philly says, that's the hard bastard you're afraid to debate. Okay, Jimmy, thank you. And Eris is Love says, did the Majority Report ever notice the David Pakman Show with David Pakman logo you put up a while back? I laughed out loud at that. Love the set drama. Yeah, I posted that to Instagram recently. By the way, if you're not following me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. There is hilarious stuff. I'm at david.pakman. Follow me, follow me, follow me. I posted a few funny photoshops of the Sam set thing, And I think that Sam did notice it, although we didn't talk too much about it. Okay, let's go back to the phones. Let's go to what looks interesting here. You know what? I said I'd go to 775 the next time I saw it, and I'm going to go to 775, although I don't know if this is that person from 775. Who's this?
Hey, David. Am I on?
Yes, you are. Who's this?
This is Robert. It's the same person from before.
Hey, how's it going, Robert?
Oh, I'm all right. This is kind of surreal. I'm not going to lie.
Good, very good. That's a good start.
There's a question I had last time. I remembered it after leaving the super chat.
Okay.
So I am a more left-wing person, and I live in a very conservative area.
Sure.
And one thing I plan on doing at some point is moving out. But then but when I think about that, just so that I have someone that's actually representing me in office, and also not crazy about the area in general, but that's a big factor in it. But my question is, do you think that this sort of leaving the conservative area as a left-wing person sort of gives or takes away power from the left when there's not the representation or any left-wing people in those conservative areas?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways it does. So listen, I live in Boston, Massachusetts. It's despite serious problems that we have in Boston with racism and segregation and stuff, it is a very progressive place. I think it's great to live in Massachusetts, and I would have a really hard time moving to a conservative area. But I recognize that my vote and my activism is probably more effective in a mathematical sense in those red areas than in blue states. So I do think that if you add your name to the hat in a place that's already represented mostly by Democrats, there's a very small chance you're going to have nearly the impact that you might be able to have by trying to turn, a district blue that's already red, for sure. But you got to do what's good for you as well,
Yeah. All right. That's pretty much all I had to say. Thanks for answering that, David.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate the phone call. Let's go next to our caller from the 636 area code. Who's calling from 636 today?
Hi, David.
Yes.
Hi, this is I'm a first-time caller. I just signed up. My name is Abaya.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for calling.
Yeah. So, as you can tell, I have an accent. I'm not new to the U.S. I've been here for over a decade. However, I just became an American citizen. So now I'm kind of following the political scene, trying to see where I belong.
Great.
Initially, I used to live in Missouri, so that's when I moved to the U.S. So I had a lot of Republicans who were, who kept painting a picture about like the United States, and at that point in time, I felt I was a Republican. However, now I kind of have my own, have built my own in terms of like done my own research to understand American history, understand why things are things are in certain ways, which I feel like even Americans themselves don't kind of place a lot of emphasis on, because a lot of things are very based on what is heard in the media is what people go off on. So, for example, a lot of people do follow what I heard there's always this kind of I'm black, but however, there's always this idea that black people are this way because they are lazy. However, nobody ever goes to look into the history of what laid certain precedents for things to be in a particular way. But anyway, that's just a background about me. My main question that I had is, as I would align more to Democrats, what I've come to realize is Democrats are really good at losing, which infuriates me all the time. Democrats have the best ideas. I'm highly educated because I have my graduate education. I'm going to pursue my PhD. However, if you ever look into economics and everything, Democrats have the best ideas. If you search in American history, usually under Democratic presidents, that's when things actually get better. However, how come always Democrats are the worst marketers in actually letting the American public know that they actually are the ones who usually move the needle in the right direction?
Yeah, this is a common issue, and I've talked about it a lot. So part of it is like messaging and framing, and George Lakoff has written a lot of interesting stuff about that. And I really, his books are pretty quick reads and very informative. So I recommend you check that out. There is a sort of structural advantage that the right has because a lot of their positions are just far simpler. They don't need much explanation. So, if you are just against taxes, taxes aren't ever going to be zero. So you just say, hey, we just need to lower taxes. Lower, lower, lower. The lower the taxes, the better. Taxes are theft. You go as crazy as you want. The left's position isn't the opposite of that. It's not higher taxes, higher, higher, higher. It's we need a reasonable level of taxation that will fund what we want, etc. Abortion. The right says abortion's murder. We're against it. The left is not about we love abortion, more abortions. It's a sort of nuanced and detail requiring perspective. And that's just a structural advantage for the right. So I think that those two, plus many other reasons, are a part of why Democrats are at significant disadvantages.
Okay, but even I get that, and I do understand, and I think actually that is 100% right. However, I think if it comes to politics, I think Democrats are just really, really terrible. It's something that I'm just coming to terms with. It annoys me so much because even when you follow like every time Republicans are always able to set the narrative, and then Democrats are now chasing after what the Republicans said. So every time it seems the Republicans are the ones who are setting the table, the Democrats are now the ones who are actually now having to defend, whilst they sometimes haven't even done anything. And sometimes I'm like, really, why can't you guys learn to market yourself? Which I just don't understand. And the next thing that I just wanted to touch on was I do go through a lot of your content on YouTube, and I'm always wondering why you don't talk a little bit more about state issues. For example, when the Democrats won the House, a lot of Republican legislators pushed certain bills to limit the governorship of certain Democrats that won in Wisconsin and all of that. And
I
all
gotcha.
those
Yeah,
were
yeah. We did talk
were
about
main
that to
issues that
some
no one talked
degree.
about.
We've talked about it to some degree.
Okay.
I always want to balance. If I go too niche, then the majority of the audience, it's not relevant to the majority of the audience. So that's just kind of like a balancing that we
Okay.
have to do. Abaya, I really appreciate the call and your support. I've got a bunch of people holding, so I'm going to move on, but I hope to hear from you again for sure. A couple of super chats that have come in. Sam says, what's the deal with those evil new abortion and miscarriage laws? Is that a real thing or just smoke being blown? Sorry for being vague. Cheers, mate. Yeah, so here's the idea is now that Trump's put two more Supreme Court, has two Supreme Court justices that he selected, they see blood in the water when it comes to abortion. So the idea of a lot of these laws is get a court case, get a lawsuit over one of the laws, appeal to the Supreme Court, which they see as possibly opening up the door to an anti-abortion decision that will let them restrict abortions further at the state level. That's the end game. Eris is Love asks, Eric Trump, big gums or tiny teeth? Yeah, that's interesting. Sometimes when you see that, it's a condition called bruxism, but I actually have not really noticed that with Eric Trump. I think I wouldn't be able to say which it is. Twinkie Boy says, amaze in. Thank you. Bola Newland says, I think YouTube click holes and pipelines are only a problem if the person is lazy-minded or a malleable child. If you know why you are left-wing, you can watch right-wing content without conforming. Absolutely. And I actually will very often say, not interested in this, and a little thing comes up that says why, and I will very often put, I don't want to see anything from this channel, or I just don't like the video. And that has also helped me to get a YouTube algorithm feed that I like much more. And I don't even really watch like political stuff. It's mostly, just chess stuff and other things I'm interested in. Eat Music One says, why did you considered the cartoon stupid? Did the New York Times apologized because it also thought it was stupid? I don't think so. I don't know why the New York Times, I believe, apologized because they thought that it was inappropriate, not because they thought it was stupid. And I thought it was stupid because I thought it was overly simplistic and also not the primary area of concern in terms of foreign influence leading Donald Trump. so to speak. So I thought that it sort of lost the plot. White Death asks, have you heard about China's internment camps for Uyghur Muslims, and will you do a segment on it? Have heard about it, don't know enough about it. We'll certainly research and do a segment about it. Let's go to the 902 area code. Who's calling today from the 902 area code?
Hi, is this me?
That is you. Yeah, who's this?
Oh, hi, this is Trevor calling from Nova Scotia.
Hey, Trevor, what's
So,
going
yeah,
on?
I just had a quick comment and a political question. A couple of weeks ago, I actually suggested to you in the chat that you do a collaboration with Philosophy Tube, and some of the other people on the chat suggested I check out the ContraPoints channel, which at the time I'd never really heard of. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll check it out. And I think about a week later, that was when you had Natalie on, and so I decided to check out the channel, and so basically I became obsessed with it. I watched every single video on the channel, and some of them more than once. So I just wanted to thank you in the audience.
Thanks, Trevor. And you didn't just
amazing.
put us on speakerphone, did you?
No, I think my face might have gotten a little bit far from the screen. But,
okay. All right. Yes. Yes. The ContraPoints is fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. I wanted to ask you about campaign funding.
Okay.
So on a couple of occasions, you expressed concern over the policy that some progressive candidates are adopting, in which they're basically refusing donations from political action committees, large corporations, lobbyists, and so on. So the way that you seem to frame the issue is that refusing these funding sources is good from an ethics or accountability standpoint, but that hurts the candidate's electoral chances.
In the general election, I clarified.
So some of the other progressive commentators seem to present it as so not only a good thing ethically, but also good in terms of strategy, since it untethers them from sort of feeling pressure from the donors, allowing them to offer more audacious, sort of less centrist policies, and also because it allows them to call out their opponent's corruption, which seems to be really valuable as a major issue for many voters.
Well, that
So I'm
didn't
just
seem to hurt
wondering-
Trump too much, right? I mean, when Trump would always just say, "Hey, I'm just playing the game really well. That's it." And so I don't know that I think that that's a perfectly reasonable position to take. I just don't know that it's borne out by the facts that it actually has that net benefit that you're describing, or that others that you're citing are describing.
Well, in fairness, of course, Hillary didn't really have the ability to call him out for that because she wasn't kind of refusing any of those donations herself. So I'm not sure that would be.
I mean,
it would go
yes
one
and
way or the
no.
other.
I do think that she did criticize him. I guess my memory is not super precise around exactly that issue. I'd have to go back and look at some of the debates, I guess, to be able to comment more precisely.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you taking my call.
My pleasure. Thank you for the call. Really, really much, very much appreciated. I got to go. I will try to do another stream this week because I'm going away for a while. I'm going to be gone for a while. There's going to be no streams for who knows how long. So I will try to do at least one more stream this week. Thanks to everybody who called in. Thanks to everybody who signed up. Patreon, YouTube Super Chats, all of that stuff.